This week, Mark Zuckerberg was hyping up some sort of big Facebook announcement, and guesses range from they're shutting the site down, haha, to some other product they're rolling out. Instead, the end result was Zuckerberg going on, I think, CBS to be interviewed about an upcoming VR app that they are rolling out for workspaces. The fundamentals of the app are essentially you wear an Oculus headset and you are able to kind of virtually transport yourself into a facsimile of like a virtual conference room along with other people from your office that are stationed around the world or wherever in order to have a work meeting and do presentations kind of remotely. He's pitching this as a sort of upgraded Zoom thing, but this is kind of representative of how Zuckerberg has twisted the concept of the metaverse, which is kind of this virtual shared existence that every tech company on earth is trying to pursue now to some degree. Facebook has been a major kind of vocal supporter of trying to move in this direction, and Mark Zuckerberg has said in the past that he wants Facebook to be a metaverse company. The problem is that Zuckerberg's vision of what the metaverse is very boring and weird and kind of bad. He seems to, because they bought Oculus for several $billions and have spent many billions more investing in it, he seems to believe that kind of the fate of the metaverse is inextricably linked to virtual reality. And while virtual reality has been a major component of kind of fictional versions of the metaverse in Snow Crash or Ready Player One or a lot of other science fiction novels where the term was originally created, the actual kind of on the ground state of VR is still not really in the best of places. And like, I don't think he used the word metaverse in this, but like it's all kind of part of the same package, and his kind of visions for this stuff is very dull. Granted, this is kind of a work app, but they have talked about kind of other more social apps that are like virtual amusement parks and things like that. But it's all with these like weird little, Facebook Oculus avatars. And here we can see in this instance, they don't even have legs. So you're just like a floating torso in these little spaces. And like, yeah, you can gesture and stuff, but like, it's like the dullest possible use of VR. And like things that, it sounds like the future on paper, like a virtual reality meeting instead of a Zoom call. And yet it's kind of like solving a problem that isn't really there, and like is the solution kind of greater than the cost. And in an instance like this, you would need everybody in your company or everyone doing this meeting to own a Oculus VR set. And I don't know, maybe this is valid for big megacorps that can send all their employees VR headsets, but this is obviously kind of very opposed to something just like a Zoom call, which you can access from your phone, from your laptop, from devices you already have. The other problem with VR is that VR is exhausting, frankly. I have two VR headsets, and I'm a huge video gamer, I do not game on my VR headsets often, if at all. And if I do, I have to do it in very short bursts because it is just kind of mentally demanding and draining in a way that traditional video games are not. And I have to believe that a work meeting in VR would be draining in a way that both probably an in-person or a Zoom meeting would not be. And I read something about how they were only recommending or guessing that people use this for like 30 minutes at a time. And like, I'm sure many people have been to meetings that said they were going to be 30 minutes and ended up being longer or were longer than that in the first place. So the Washington Post Gene Park said this really well, where he thinks like Zuckerberg is kind of just conflating the pursuit of the metaverse with just sort of debuting all these different, suite of apps for the VR platform for Oculus. And that's not really the same thing. I cover a game like Fortnite a lot, which seems a lot closer to kind of like the fun, interesting version of the metaverse that, the science fiction community kind of envisioned in the first place, where, Fortnite's a game where they've adopted all these IPs into this virtual space that you do not need virtual reality to access. Hence why tens and tens of millions of people play Fortnite or Minecraft or Roblox or all these other games that have these huge online communities that are not linked by VR, and yet they exist in a digital world. And to me, these seem a lot closer to the metaverse than anything Facebook is trying to do here. And I have yet to see anything I would consider like genuinely interesting out of Facebook's VR projects. VR chat is a thing. It is kind of niche, but it exists and it has its fans. But the idea of just like Facebook virtual school or Facebook virtual office, and like these are not interesting, and I would say not very practical concepts. So it is hard to see this taking off at any meaningful capacity. Like no matter, this isn't even a money thing. Like they could throw an infinite amount of money at this thing, and it wouldn't mean it's going to be like the next thing. They are kind of skipping ahead, sort of like assuming everybody wants to adopt VR when the market has not said that, and it remains relegated to a pretty small niche. VR has many problems still to overcome, but fundamentally, the main problem with VR, and we've seen this in gaming, is that I do not think it has proved that it can be more interesting than the alternatives that already exist that people widely use. The idea of existing in a virtual space is cool. It's a good, it can be a good diversion for people, and some people may like to spend a lot of time there, but I have not found that is a very large percentage of the population of people who game or people who do, virtual business and things like that, because VR is expensive, it is very draining, and it is just not really better in a lot of ways than kind of the existing ways you can exist in virtual spaces right now. So I've said for a while that I think Mark Zuckerberg is misguided in his kind of virtual reality centric pursuit of the metaverse. And I don't think examples like this showing, torsos of people having a virtual meeting with virtual PowerPoints is terribly compelling or as cool as he thinks it is. The tech itself to get this to work may be very cool, and yet this is like extremely base level stuff that is not very interesting to see, and it's like initial iteration here. And like, again, this could all evolve significantly over time, but and VR has evolved in some ways quickly, and yet it has not become mainstream in the least. So I guess we'll keep an eye on it, but I do not share this VR centric idea of the metaverse or kind of shared digital spaces that Zuckerberg seems to.